why am I bringing the mind back? Why is this mind, which is, why is the mind going everywhere? And if I start to analyze, then I realize this mind has so much amount of desires, it wants to do, um, you know, it wants to do things, uh, at the same time, it really wants to, not just the multi-skill part of it, but, or multi-desires. But the point is, in all these desires, if I'm too much engrossed in it, then it becomes difficult to control the mind. So therefore, that knowledge is required to understand, why am I doing all this? You know, Obviously, I'm doing all this for the sake of happiness, but this happiness I'm getting is very temporary. So let me focus on something which is a little more stretched out happiness and a little more. So that's where the knowledge is coming. But then this, is the knowledge enough? Now I need to slow down. I need to spend some time. I need to do all this Shravana Mananam Nididhyasana, which is, reflect upon this knowledge and make the knowledge my own, for which I need this practice of meditation. Okay. So that is why he says, okay, knowledge is superior, but then meditation is required in order for me to, uh, for the knowledge to sink in. And then once I do that, then what? I still have to do my karma yoga and everything. At that point in time, the practice of meditation, really, whether it is working or not, is evident only when I'm working in the world and am able to very easily uh, give up the outcome of my work, or my focus is completely on my action. And that is why that renunciation of fruits, he says, is the most superior part of it, because ultimately that is the crux, is where I really know where whatever I've done before is working or not. So renunciate of food. And so once, and the what should I say? The effect of that renunciation fruit is nothing but, I'm peaceful. Tyagat Shanti Anantaram. Ultimately, that peace which I'm really wanting, longing for, and for which I really worked so hard, and I'm even living this entire, whatever, 80 years of life or 90 years, which is being allotted to me in this life, where ultimately I'm looking for that peace. That peace I have received only when I have completely understood that phalatyagam. So in second chapter, when Karmanyevadikaraste, we learned, that was Krishna actually teaching Arjuna about what that he needs to start giving up. So in a way, it is like, just follow me blindly and you will get it. If we get it at that second chapter, we don't need anything else, right? So that's why we've come all the way up to the 12th chapter. And in 12th chapter, he has gone into the details of the process by which this palatyagam can happen. And once that palatyagam is this one, obviously you get the peace, and peace is what we're all looking for. So very it this 12th verse of this 12th chapter is summarizing everything, but it has to be understood properly. The shlokas can be confusing, because if you read it backwardly, so somebody might say that, oh, does that mean karma yoga is the most, is the highest? Somebody may say that, right? Because he's saying sarva karma phala tyagam is the pinnacle of it. But what he's trying to say here is, and especially because this is for Arjuna, right? So at the end of the day, he says that, that ultimate renunciation of fruit is the one which leads you to peace, and that peace is me, myself, you know. that Anantam, this completely is just me, myself. And that is why this is, if you look at it, it's the 4 steps of a Nirguna sadhana, not Saguna sadhana, Nirguna sadhana. And that is the what here we have summarized um, in this table here. Nirguna sadhana, the renunciation of fruit is the highest. That comes only when I start to practice my meditation, for which I need the knowledge, and for which, Shravanam, this listening and understanding is the one of the most important sadhanas in this here, because if my listening is very clear and I develop the clarity, I'll be able to get that ultimate peace that I want. So I will just pause here in case you have any questions or something you want to discuss about the shloka.
Hari Om. So when you say it needs a sharp intellect, that means it's clarity of thought, correct?
Completely. Yep.
Okay.
Our intellect is the one which needs to be in the driving seat all the time, and it has to be available for us. It has to be an active intellect. It has to be an intellect which is free of judgment, free of any biases when I'm acting in this world. Like even when I'm listening to this lecture or anything, my intellect has to be sharp. And that sharpness can be um, developed only when I follow all these steps. And that is the sadhanas that is being given here. That is why I started off this lecture, today's lecture, by saying the sadhanas has to ultimately lead to that outcome of a very sharp intellect.
It's a very powerful word, right? In sharp intellect.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Anant, anything you want to say or analyze in this one for the shloka? Because, as I said, this shloka has to be understood properly. If we don't, this, as I said, people say, okay, Krishna is glorifying karma yoga. You know, he is actually glorifying all the yogas here, but ultimately he's saying, know what your final goal is. My final goal for anything, even when I'm working and I'm trying to get to a certain stage in my life or whatever, in my work, why am I doing this? Because of I want that um, a party, I have reached, uh, you know, the peace that happens when I've reached a destination or when I've reached what I wanted in life or whatever, right? Ultimately, it's peace. And that's what Krishna is saying. The ultimate thing is I want to reach that peace which is beyond any kind of words that can be used to describe that feeling.
Arvom.
Yes.
Here, renunciation means renunciation of the fruits of action. Is that the meaning?
Uh, yes, completely. Completely. Fruits of action, renunciation, um, as a word, um, renunciation of any kind of expectations, what I have.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, this totally kind of summarizes the sadhanas, and then what are we expecting from it, which is, of course, at the end of the day, peace is all that we're expecting from our this. Yes, it sounds like a you just asked me what I have to give give up everything, but I'm not giving up peace. I am, if I give up everything, I get peace, you know. So that's the part we this. Now we are coming to the part where uh, it's the practical aspects of the teaching. You know, what is the outcome of it? What kind of qualities can I get? So in the second chapter, like we said, there were many shlokas, and now we are coming to this aspect of um, um, the other aspects which uh, about the devotee itself, about where are we getting to. So in shloka 13, it starts off, there are about literally 9 shlokas, and these shlokas are really starts to describe a very experienced devotee, I would say. Somebody who has consistently been following all the things that we talked about before. And it is somebody who is now, again, we said these are nirguna sadhanas, right? Nirguna, which is formless meditation. Um, so here, this person is somebody, this is trending towards where the person recognizes that in this world, uh, it is not just me alone who's living and all the people, but it is ultimately that Ishvara, and it is that Ishvara with the Maya Shakti has created this world, and this world is not different from himself, right? So that is Nirguna. Nirguna sadhana is uh, there is, all the forms which are there in the world are really nothing but that Ishvara in the different forms. So when such a person really has that kind of a mindset, that behavior, his behavior changes completely, and he no longer really feels that he is in this family, or he's separate from anybody else. He's completely merged with that divine. So that's the he really develops a kind of a holistic framework, I would say, holistic framework where there is um, he doesn't see any differences between him and others. So in this beautiful shloka coming up, you will see that he's completely free from any kind of competition, I would say. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. It'll, we'll read do the shloka, of course, but he starts to have absolutely no differences between he and another person. So the language itself changes. I was watching some reels, okay, and I'll make a note of who this person is. He is very cute, like 1 minute reel where he will say, "So what do you?" He has this reel where he says, um, "So how do you address a question when somebody comes and says that you are so and you are, you're not doing a great job or anything? So how do you answer this back?" So he gives a 1 minute answer on how to answer this kind of a question. Very interesting. The point is, if I don't have any kind of hatred towards anybody, automatically my speech becomes good. I am liked by everybody. I have absolutely no hatred at all, right? So that adveshta, he talks about this particular quality. The next thing is, yes, if i'm if I have that kind of feeling, there is nothing but friendliness. Everybody is a friend for me, Maitra. And this, we've come across kind of aspects of the shloka even in fourth chapter. How the samabuddhi is there towards a pandita, towards uh, different people. There are about 8 different types of people he talks about in one of the early chapters, fourth or fifth. And then Karunaha, he has great compassion. And yes, he has complete freedom from mine and minus and I-ness, um, and he's completely samadukha sukha kshami. So in my university, in our MBA class, for example, taking some of these um, qualities, and we have converted them into leadership qualities for the MBA students. And we are going into case studies. We are looking into different leaders who actually embrace some of these qualities very naturally. So let's see the shloka itself, where the 7 qualities are shown. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, Adveshta sarvabhutanam, Maitrah karuna evacha, Maitrah karuna evacha, Nirmamo nirahankaraha, Nirmamo nirahankaraha, Samadukha sukakshami, Samadukha sukakshami. So Adveshta, somebody who has no hatred towards any being. Um, I mean, I remember during the COVID time, right? When when everyone had to just stay in their homes and everything, pretty soon the sale of pets became really high, So many people became dog lovers, cat lovers, and everything. Of course, at that point in time, we needed a being in our house to whom we can shower affection, because we're not able to go out, see different people and everything. But then we also know, there's so many people who may be great cat lovers or dog lovers, but they still will have problems within their own family. You know, you're not able to get along with your own siblings or, families. So that's not what this shloka is about, right? The shloka is about, it doesn't matter whether it's your own pets or your own family. How can you develop yourself in not having just pure love towards everyone? So Adveshta Sarva Bhutana, Maitra Karuna Evacha. So friendly is not just lip service. I remember in one of the lectures of Bhajagovindam, you know, um, I should remember, I had tried to remember, the shloka doesn't come right away for me. And Swami Chinmayananda, he gives this beautiful example of, suppose you're at home and, of course, he's talking about a kind of a typical Indian home, and, uh, you know, the doors are open, anyone can walk in, right? So, depending upon who is walking in, your smile can be either, he said, 1 centimeter or half an inch or 1 inch or 2 inches on how much you're opening your mouth and smiling. So again, that is not what we are talking about here, but somebody who's friendly towards everybody and somebody who's very compassionate. And when Meena brought up the sharpness of intellect, that that's what it does. If your intellect is really sharp, you're compassionate to everyone. You're friendly. So Maitra Karuna Evacha Nirmama Nirahankaraha. Somebody who is completely free from uh, any aspect of my, this is mine, that kind of thing. Again, this is not to be, thought about like, if I have a neighbor um, who is mowing the lawn early in the morning or something like that. Um, of course, my sleep is very important at 4 a.m. in the morning. And, it is with all compassion that I go out and tell him that, what, I really need to sleep or whatever. And to do that. So, again, if my intellect is sharp, whatever I do will never be mistaken by anybody else. So nirmamaha nirahankaraha. I don't have this possessiveness, neither do I have this egoistic part that only I am important and, that kind of thing. So, nirmama nirahankaraha samadukha sukhakshami. Um, we understand that both are not only just our physical bodies, but people around us, and even the work that I do will not always pan out in the way I want it to be. So I'm balanced in pain and I'm balanced in pleasure. And I'm also forgiving. It's not just me alone, but I forgive myself for any kind of mistakes I make very naturally, but I also forgive all the people around me. So really one of the most beautiful of even this 8 shlokas that we're going to cover. This shloka is like, I mean, every shloka you will see such beautiful qualities coming out of this. So that is why, again, going back, when I had this thing is, what kind of sadhana am I doing? And how is this going to help me be a better person, right? So, very, very practical way in which Krishna is really telling this to Arjuna. Any thoughts or something you want to share when you hear a shloka like this? Does are you able to think of somebody who has this kind of qualities, and what do you see has been the outcome out of that?
Netaji,
Yes, Jayashri.
my boss was like this, like he passed away 2 years ago. He
Mm-hmm.
he would say, be good to everybody, no matter what. Um, it reminds me of him. And
Uh-huh.
if you do a mistake, he will say, okay, you did it this time, but next time don't do it. He's not mad.
Mm-hmm.
He nurturing and really he was like a father to me.
Wow. So you see how, um, Bhagavad Gita, just by study of this Bhagavad Gita and by understanding where Bhagavad Gita is going with regard to the holistic frame of knowledge, and how that knowledge is helping us to understand my own identity and the relation of identity with everybody around me and to the ultimate Ishvara, allows us to be something like what you just said, as what your boss is exhibiting, right?
Yeah.
And your boss may not have really studied Bhagavad Gita, but in his previous life or something, he would have had this kind of a knowledge which allowed him to be who he was and truly a leader, to be a good manager, to be a good leader, to be able to even not just be a leader, to even to be a worker who can do the work well. This kind of knowledge is so much more essential, because even in my regular work, I have to work in a team, and in a team, I cannot afford to have any biases or judgment. And all these things can automatically kind of sublimate away if I have this knowledge, and I will automatically be all this. I don't have to practice. I don't have to go to a workshop to be a good team player. We have in corporate level, I used to have opportunities to go for so many of those workshops on how to be a good team player, how to be a good leader, how to get your work done, how to be a good salesperson, how to be a good negotiator. All this, you know, this can be, if I'm friendly and I'm compassionate, like even if I'm doing business with I'm selling something, my own chemical product or whatever. When I used to go with my sales and marketing guys, if I'll automatically create a win-win situation. you know I will if I know who my competition is, I will not try to you know cut some things in order that only I succeed or whatever. I'll probably do in such a way that he also succeed in whatever way he's destined to, I guess, my competition. But I will do my best and I'll be recognized. My work will be much better. So many different things really comes out with these shlokas, I think. When I read it and when we try to explain this for our MBA students, we bring in some of these case studies and then we tie into these shlokas and then we talk about the need for studying some of these scriptures for that purpose. So we'll do one more shloka here, which kind of is connected to this. So here the shlokas are about how one can actually derive contentment, you know. So most of us, we derive, we are very happy through those five different things I've talked about before, through by constantly changing objects in my house or constantly changing my house even, right? So objects, situations, or going to a nice restaurant, having a good meal, buying some great clothes. So once I get this, my mind becomes calm, my mind becomes peaceful, right? But we don't recognize that that peace is temporary, right? That peace that I got was actually triggered by something which was also temporary. For example, and we always give this gulab jamun joke, right? Gulab jamun example. Today I take a gulab jamun and I'm contented. Tomorrow, I may take the same gulab jamun, I might not get that much amount of contentment, maybe 50%. The third day, my contentment has dropped to maybe 10%. On the fourth day, if I have the same gulab jamun in the house, I really don't want to have it anymore. I want to just give it away or something. So that's how we have developed ourselves. But here he's talking about if I know who that Ishvara is, and if I'm connected to that Ishvara, that contentment that I got is something which is much, much more than than like us who are getting the contentment from enjoying something. So by being, bhogi. So I'm no longer running behind all these finite things for contentment. Of course, that doesn't mean that I will not go to a restaurant. I will go to a restaurant, but I will recognize that that contentment I'm receiving is only for that moment, and I put my mind and soul in having and enjoying that contentment. So that is the santushta we are talking about. And so another one is this satatam yogi, somebody who, if the person has this knowledge, that person's meditation itself will be very, very consistent, very steady. So satatam yogi, steady meditation, and uh, yatatma, this quality of Dhamma is here. We see this. We think that this world is actually, is existing by itself, right? And we ourselves kind of make our own judgment about the world. And we expect a lot of things from the world that the world will give me. I do so much amount of work. I expect that this boss will look at me this way. But this person recognizes that I can never ever get whatever I want from this world. So I try to do whatever I'm supposed to do, being an instrument. And this kind of knowledge is, I'm 100% convinced of it. And that is the Dhrida Nischaya. And knowing that I automatically, very naturally, uh, dedicate whatever I have to that Lord. So that is the aspect which he's talking is satatam, yatatma, dhrida nischayaha, and who's completely controlled and is dedicated. So this shloka also we will chant now. Santushtha satatam yogi, santushtha satatam yogi, yatatma dhrida nischayaha, yatatma dhrida nischayaha. Mayyarpitamano buddhihi मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मद्भक्तः स च मे प्रियः मद्भक्तः स च मे प्रियः. So, santushtaha, ever content, satatam, all the time, yogi. The yogi is somebody who is meditating. Yatatma dhrida nishchayaha. Yatatma, that is within himself, he is self-controlled. Dridam, he has a firm conviction. Mayi arpita. So somebody who is completely dedicated to Ishvara, somebody who is minded to this, is completely dedicated. Ya mat bhakta sachame priyaha. So you will see this last line as the refrain for the next few shlokas, where Krishna is saying that such a person is the person who is extremely dear to me. So this these two shlokas, 13 and 14, they are one stage or one set of qualities, and we'll move on to, I was hoping we could have done more, but we'll continue from 15, 16, and 17 next week. Okay? Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. It's on 22nd, 21st, 23rd. We'll meet next week. Okay. Just stop the record.